Alright, now the fun begins. Now since we've got our lists of streets, now we need to start getting some names. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with the Runge search. So what we need to do to make this query work, to actually use all these addresses that we've got, is we're going to have to make a macro, which is basically a collection of scrapers that get all of our information together. So we're going to go to macros, and we're going to, I've got two levels. Level 1 gets the names, and level 2 gets the phone numbers. Just for an example, let's see, when you do a search, this is level 1. This is the first string that we've got in our query, and this is the results that it brings up. If you notice, it has the name, the address, the city, the age, and any persons in the household. But it doesn't have is the phone. See over here the little button that says phone? Now if you click on this person's name, this is level 2. Not with all the nasty pictures, but anyways, you've got the name, the address, the zip, and the phone number. So that's level 1 and level 2. So what we got, well, what we have, rather, if we use proper English, level 1 names. So we're going to double click on this. If you just make a new macro, and I named it level 1 names. Now what we're going to do is, this is an old query, so the query that we want to use, and if you click on this little arrow, it gives you a list of all of the queries that you have. So we're going to start with Runge, and I'm going to change this, well, the name is fine, level 1. And so what you want to do is we're going to have to select some different things. So you want browse all pages, and when you just want all pages, have that clicked or checked off. You want empty before macro execution, so that empties out your cache before the macro starts. You don't really want to save it anywhere, so you don't want any of that. And then down here, what you want it to do, this is what you're telling the macro to do with the information. So you want checked, scraped, and you can just leave it on the default, and it'll just use the only query that's, or the scraper that's checked. You want it to empty. You want clean text, keep order, and deduplicate, so it cleans up your information. And then you want the destination to be the catch. And then we'll use that to make another query for level 2. So now what we want to do is, we've got all this, so we want to hit save, and then we can go over to our scraper to make sure that we've got the right scraper for the job. And so what we're going to do is, instead of having the Yorktown scraper, or whatever scraper you're using to get your streets, I made two scrapers, a generic name page scraper and a generic name scraper. Now obviously the generic name page scraper is the level 1 scraper, and the generic name scraper is the level 2 scraper. So we'll just, you can either make a new, just go ahead and make a new one, and then when it opens up, this one's really simple. So what we'll do is, you want to go back to the page so that we can look at the code. So we'll go back to our browser, and you've got your code. So I'll tell you what, the best way to do that, let's go over to queries. You're on your first city, and just double click on that first list, and it actually brings you up to the first street. So you can go to page, and of course it doesn't have anything. You need to find one that actually has something. I know County Road 103 does, so we'll just use that as an example. We'll go to page. So we have all of our names, and so this is what we're going to use to make our scraper. So let's go over to scraper, and we've got our code. What we want to do is, we want to find the information that we want for the code. So we're going to roll on down until we get to the name, and usually it's in black, so it's pretty easy to find somewhere down here. Alright, here we go. Alright, so now you notice that it's got the same thing. It's got a hyperlink, and then it's got the name. Now we don't really want the name. What we really want is this hyperlink, because this makes our job a whole lot easier. So what we're going to do is we want this marker before the Ahref deal. And so what we're going to do is, you see what we've got right here. I've got this is paragraph and then Ahref name. So we want this all the way back like that, and you can copy and paste that in the marker before. Now in the marker after, we want to stop right here, because this code is a special code for each of these names. So we want to just select that right there and make that the marker after. Alright, then we want to do the same thing that we did before. We want to replace this information with our address for 411.com. So if we go over to, let's see, this first one, this is going to be the actual page that we're going to look up for this person. So it's 411.com/name, and then their name, the city, and the code. So if we go back over here, we can go to the replace, double click, and if you see, we've got the 411.com/name, and then we've got, you take the name out and you put backslash and 0, and that replaces each name with this information. And so just to show you what that'll do, let's go back to our page and back up. So County Road 103. All right. And so just as a test, let's go back to the scraper and hit execute. Okay, so it's disabled. Yes, we want to activate it. All right, so now see what that did? That brought up all of those names. Of course, if you notice, it also doubled them, but it got all of the names. So now we can kind of edit that. You can hit deduplicate and empty, and we can redo that scraper to try it again. So we can execute again, and it's still got twice as many, but that's alright. It's working right now, because really when you run it through the macro, it's going to deduplicate anything anyway. So we know that our scraper's working. Alright, so we've got all that done. So now we want to make sure that we save our scraper as level 1 and go back and make sure that that's the only scraper that's active, because that'll be the scraper that it uses to get the information. Go back to our macro, and so we've got all of Runge selected. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and execute that. And so now it's going to start looking up all the names, and we can even go over to the queries box or even the scraped box and see as it goes through each of these streets. Now remember, the first couple of streets it didn't have anything, so there we go, we got some names now. And so what it'll do is it'll just go through, and if you notice, it's only getting the exact amount. It clears the page out, then it drops the next page and puts that down. So we have 9, so that's another. So it'll just keep going through this, and then whenever we get done with this, we're actually going to turn it into another search. So in the next video, we'll show you what to do with all this information once it's done.